Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Today we're going to do a quick video on brain fog, some of the top 5 causes that can drive brain fog. And what's brain fog? That's where your thinking is foggy, memory recall, not quick on your feet, not fluent with your speech, difficulty recalling anything more on the long-term side, sometimes even short-term side. We're going to talk about what's driving that from a physiological, biochemical kind of underlying perspective and just some things that you can do to fix that. Before we dive in, make sure you smash that like button. Give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. Put your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the topic and what's helped you in the past as well. All right. So, brain fog, right? Foggy thinking. What's driving a lot of that? So, I have over 10 years of clinical experience seeing over 5,000 plus patients. There's a couple of commonalities that you see. And then, of course, I have the ability to make changes. We can follow up and see improvements. So, one of the biggest driving factors is inflammation in the brain. Now, where's that inflammation coming from? So obviously, simple things are going to be like head trauma, whether it's sports or car accidents. That's kind of quite apparent and quite clear. And we have different modalities to help that. Things like fasting can be very helpful, red light therapy, HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy, progesterone, resveratrol. These all can be very helpful for like acute traumatic type of things. Obviously, anti-inflammatory compounds like curcumin, very helpful as well. Even glutathione shown to be very helpful on the acute side. Now, things like gluten, food allergens, dairy, things that create inflammation in the gut, they can create gut permeability. And when the gut's more permeable, what can happen is you open up that gut lining and then food from the inside of the gut can kind of make its way to the outside. And what that can do is that can eventually move its way to the brain and that can eventually create inflammation. Because once it passes the astrocytes or the blood-brain barrier on the brain, it can activate these microglial cells or immune cells in the brain. And that starts to create inflammation. And you can start to see that inflammation manifest with more cognitive issues and more brain fog issues. That's important. So we got to decrease the inflammation in the gut via food. Big vector. Obviously, things like dysbiosis, H. pylori, imbalances in the gut bacteria or infections can definitely drive that problem as well. Things like endotoxins and lipopolysaccharides that come off a lot of these bugs can create these problems. You can even see it with fungus and yeast too, because fungus and yeast can spit off acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde can kind of make you feel drunk too. So acetaldehyde is kind of this yeast byproduct, and that can also activate this compound called cell-solanol, which can activate different cells in the brain that can affect the midbrain, the substantia nigra, and dopamine-producing cells in the midbrain. So we have that component too. I would also say just inflammatory compounds in the environment. So things like mold, pesticides, hormone disrupting like compounds can easily affect hormones, create inflammation. Mold is a big one too because of the mycotoxins produced by the mold. So if it's like an aspergillus or penicillium mold, you can get ochratoxin, you can get all these different mycotoxins from that mold that can actually create cognitive issues, neurological issues, fatigue, can really affect your mitochondria and your body's ability to generate energy as well. Hormone imbalances. So, of course, like high levels of cortisol from stress and inflammation from any of these things can really affect the brain. High levels of cortisol can affect the hippocampus in the areas of the brain that really affect memory and cognitive function. So, that's a thing. High levels of cortisol can affect that. Also, blood sugar imbalances. So, high to low swings of blood sugar, especially when it becomes more chronically high. Insulin resistance in the brain is a big deal, right? There's a lot of data talking about a lot of cognitive issues in regards to like dementia being connected to type 3 diabetes, where the brain is now essentially resistant to using a lot of the glucose for fuel. And then it kind of starves itself, kind of like almost like in type 1 diabetics cases, they have super high levels of blood sugar, but not a lot of fuel in the cell because it can't get it in. So they kind of waste away. You can go look at pictures of type 1 diabetics before insulin was created. They would just literally waste away because they couldn't get fuel in the cell. They had a blood sugar, 6, 7, 800 level in the bloodstream, but they wouldn't be able to get it to the cell. Well, you kind of have this phenomenon in the brain because that same enzyme that cleans up the plaques in the brain is also going to be the same enzyme that helps deal with insulin. All right. And so what couple things we can do is we can reverse the insulin levels by cutting down the carbohydrates and really getting the insulin resistant down through movement, exercise, nutrients to help with blood sugar, magnesium, vanadium, insulin, right? These are all really important nutrients. Cinnamon, right? There's a lot of other nutrients that help. Alpha lipoic acid can really help with the blood sugar sensitivity, movement, restricting carbohydrates, good fats, good protein, avoiding a lot of the junky fatty acids are very helpful. And I would say the last thing out of the gates is low female hormones. So if you're a woman going into menopause, lower progesterone, lower estrogen, or you're a woman with lots of PMS, right? Maybe estrogen dominance, maybe progesterone's functionally low. That can easily throw things off because one, those hormones are very anti-inflammatory to the brain. If they're out of balance, they can create a lot of issues. And as you go into menopause, low levels of progesterone and estrogen, very anti-inflammatory. Very helpful with modulating the immune system. And if we have some brain inflammation due to other things, having those hormones be on the lower side, it's kind of like having a fire and having a fire hose, having the water be on low, so to speak. So we have the inability to kind of damp down that inflammation. So first thing out of the gates, get the food right, get the blood sugar right, anti-inflammatory nutrients like we talked about, curcumin, glutathione, resveratrol, helpful. Getting solid anti-inflammatory diet, avoiding the omega-6 junky fatty acids. And again, some may be okay. It's really the excess, right? It's that keeping it in a 1-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio is usually okay. Staying away from the trans fats, adding in some of the nutrients, getting your cortisol looked at, getting your female hormones looked at, getting your gut looked at, especially if you have bacteria, yeast, or fungal imbalances. All very, very important to look at. Again, this is Dr. J here. Hope you enjoyed that information. If it makes sense or if it clicks with you or resonates, put your comments down below. If you want to dive in deeper because you think you have some cognitive memory, energy, hormone issues, or gut issues that are driving that, click down below. There'll be a link for you to reach out to myself where you can get support worldwide. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me dive into some questions and see if I can help you all out. Okay, so first thing, what's a great way to improve short-term memory? So, out of the gates is just reduce inflammation, right? The less your inflammation is, the better blood flow you're going to have to your brain. Of course, if you have good nutrient-dense proteins and fats and you're not making your blood sugar go up and down and you're not driving a lot of inflammation through food allergens, it's going to really help your brain significantly. Outside of that, if you can do specific testing to look at amino acids, to look at mitochondrial function. If there's imbalances in these areas, supporting these imbalances can move the needle a lot. Good questions. Okay, good. Excellent. I have thyroid and I have skin allergies. Yeah. So if you have thyroid issues, low thyroid can definitely impact cognitive function as well, just because thyroid plays a major role in metabolism, right? And if you have lower metabolism, lower energy, that's going to definitely affect your brain cells, your neurons in the brain to work well. Excellent. And then regarding pyroglutamic acid is an organic acid that we look at to get a window into glutathione. So glutathione is very powerful, very anti-inflammatory. It's your body's master antioxidant. It's also a detoxifying nutrient, really helps with phase 2 cytochrome P450 oxidase pathways for detoxification. So if we have exposure to toxins, whether it's mold or pesticides or heavy metals, right, you could plug in heavy metals into that category of causing neurological destruction, which could eventually cause brain fog issues. Yeah, you definitely want to be supporting those pathways. But glutathione is that master antioxidant. So it really plays a major, major role. So, simple things out of the gates is just don't put toxins in your body. So don't put it on your hygiene products. Make sure you check out your hygiene products. You can use like Skin Deep or Cosmetic Skin Database through the Environmental Working Group. Make sure your food's organic. Drink high quality filtered water. Mineral water is also great too. And organic, and then make sure you get a little bit of movement and good sleep. That's really important. You detoxify a lot via sleep. And then outside of that, you could always dive into specific functional medicine testing like organic acids or intercellular nutrients or looking at your hormones to really fine tune things out of the gate. I always say start with the foundation and kind of build your way up. Enjoyed the video, thumbs up, share, appreciate it. Want to reach out down below, links to connect with me. Take care, y'all. Bye now.